Hi friends. As I look back into more classics that I loved and relished it, I started thinking of where did I ever get down to reading good books? Where did it all began? I had chanced upon a few old classics of mine and started trying to recall what was the first children's classic that I ever read. Used to go these abridged volumes for children. And the first book that I can recall ever reading, and that made me fall in love with, is reading things beyond, a little beyond, the typical detective stories that people used to read, was Oliver Twist. So, this blog is a tribute to probably the greatest writer of the English language. You have obviously, I'm sure any book reader has guessed the name of the author, but as I went going into listing, the books that shaped my life, specifically the classics, the problem is a couple of them were Russian authors, and I definitely wanted to bring Rushdie and the Indian authors brigade, and that left me only limited space to talk about English classics. So when I tried to pick one book, my challenge was, I thought of Jules Verne. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea enchanted me in my school time. Then I thought of Robert Louis Stevenson. If there was one classic that just gave me sleepless nights, it had to be Treasure Island. Or should it be Arthur Conan Doyle, right? For the greatness of Sherlock Holmes. But then there was one author with whom there were so many affairs. It began with Oliver Twist, the story of the orphan Oliver, Mr. Bumble, the warden or keeper of the orphanage, Fangs, Monk, and the whole bandwagon of characters of that gang. The imagery of this so-called, 1800s or whatever, London underworld, and the story of this reunion, and finally this happy ending. It was mind boggling. Then you immediately shift to David Copperfield, what we were taught in school. An enchanting story of this man. Then you switch over to Great Expectations, and how could you forget Miss Havisham? The whole idea of this kid who keeps thinking that Miss Havisham loves him and cares for him as a child, and he's in love with her daughter. Very recently, I think they made a Katrina Kaif movie with it. They are endless books by Charles Dickens that you can love. Pickwick Papers is something which I read some time back, and wow, I mean, it's written as kind of episodic stories, and they are so humorous, they are so entertaining that you just don't know how would the English language have shaped without Charles Dickens. I am yet to come at probably one of the best, and that is A Tale of Two Cities. When I read A Tale of Two Cities, I was left stunned. I mean, you know, this whole imagery of this lady who is sitting in a shop just before the French Revolution, knitting sweaters and writing down names of the nobility. Okay, that Madame left an absolute terror in my heart. The tragic ending where the drunkard look-alike saves Dame and dies in his place at the guillotine was an unbelievably emotional story. So when I look at Tale of Two Cities, when I look at David Copperfield, Great Expectations, Oliver Twist, I just understand that this man was a genius of being the showman, creating characters that remain with you for lifetime. So this one was about a tribute to a great man. So I decided, since I could not pick among these three or four, I decided that let me go and owe my allegiance to the one that I read first, and that was Oliver Twist. That's why, for no other reason but that, I declare that Oliver Twist deserves to be in this list, as do all of the other books that I mentioned of Charles Dickens, because I don't see how one can claim to love classics without loving Dickens. I do not understand anyone who says that I did not love Charles Dickens. I think the language, our culture, and our understanding of Victorian England and our school life would be absolutely incomplete without Dickens. So, with that, I take adieu, and I just want you to know that if you haven't read Dickens, you have not experienced the joy of amazing characters. You have not really experienced literature. There are people who have written more serious stuff, there are people who have written more hard hitting stuff, but Dickens gives you grandeur. And the interesting part is this: Dickens doesn't try to be grand, by the way. Dickens gives you grim stories and people who are usually on the road, poor. He gives you glimpses of the, you can say, the underbelly of the societies, whether it be in Taylor Swift, whether it be the in this thing, Oliver Twist. He always, I think, he genuinely thought of himself as a socialist, or if not the word socialist, definitely someone who really cares for society and for the poor. So his story always has this bit about the poor, and that's why probably I think the showman in movies, Raj Kapoor, you see his characters and the way his story goes, you see a lot of Dickens in it. So Dickens was at once the representative of Victorian England in its grandeur and in its poverty. With that, I bid adieu, and I definitely recommend anyone and everyone to have this slice of cake of literature, because without this, literature is definitely incomplete.